And welcome back here on FestiVITA, where we're here to discover experiences and year abroad discoveries with students who went on their year abroad here. They're originally from the University of Exeter, but for their third year, they went all around the world and they're here to help us discover and tell us all about their amazing and sometimes maybe challenging, who knows, year abroad. Today, we're here with Maria Claudia. She went on her year abroad in Geneva. She's with us online. Maria Claudia, how are you doing? Can you hear us? All good.
Yes, it's all good. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
All good, all good. So today, as I said, you're here to present us your year abroad in
Yes.
Geneva, in Switzerland. First of all, my first question is, what made you choose your destination? Was it a personal choice, or was it because the university told you maybe you should go there? What made you choose to go there? Sorry.
I think I've always been interested in the international community, so international relations, the UN, all of these international organizations, and Geneva is like the hotspot of that in Europe. So I thought it was the perfect opportunity to be able choose to choose Geneva, and also because I speak French, and it was a way for me to improve my French as well, simultaneously. But yeah, it was amazing. I even visited the UN headquarters, which is just surreal for me. So it was just like the perfect small city that just gave me all my interests, basically.
Beautiful, beautiful. We will come back to the UN headquarters just after to talk about the stuff that you can do in Geneva. My second question is, how was the preparation of going to Geneva? Was it complicated or not? Because we forgot to mention you are Italian, so I imagine all these things that
Yeah.
we can hear very often about the British Council, I imagine must have been pretty all right with you, or was that a
Yeah.
lot of paperwork for
Um,
Switzerland?
I think I definitely had it way easier than other people because I didn't need a visa of any sorts because I just used my Italian passport. But I have to say that the preparation from just Exeter was pretty easy, even finding an accommodation. But once I got to Geneva, there was quite a lot of paperwork with the canton of Geneva. So I had to get a bank card, like a Swiss bank card. I had to also file that I don't need to pay any taxes because I'm a student. So just a lot of bureaucracy that can be very overwhelming, but they do help you a lot with it. They gave you a lot of support, and they give you step-by-step instructions. So it's made really easy for anyone who needs to come to Geneva.
When you say they, is it the university where you're studying in Geneva, or is it the
Yeah,
like administration?
it's a university where I study in Geneva. They have like an exchange um, coordinator, basically, which follows everyone who's who's doing their who's doing their year abroad, and he just helps with anything, any questions, finding an accommodation, finding just any issues with paperwork that you may have. So they're really useful.
Beautiful, beautiful. And talking about your university, so just remind me, what was the name of the university where you went in Geneva? Or I mean, if you still are, because you are in Geneva right now, right?
Yeah, it's called Université de Genève.
Okay.
It's pretty big. It's a public university. So I think the main difference from Exeter is it has less societies, I guess. But there's still a lot of opportunities that they have, and they have a great society called ESN Society, which is the Erasmus Societies, where they just do so many trips,
Oh,
which is
nice.
amazing.
When you say Erasmus Society, so it's for every students that are in like kind of Erasmus like you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, technically, with the whole UK Brexit, it's not called Erasmus anymore, but they still call it Erasmus, just
Is it?
add a plus.
It's the same concept. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's the same concept. Yeah.
Um, talking about your university, would you mind telling us about your academic experience and the difference between studying at the University of Exeter and studying at the University of Geneva? Was it
Yeah, of
like more
course.
challenging, or did you find it easier? Maybe
Um,
like, do you have more
I
hours? First of
think
all,
I think it was definitely very different because in Exeter, the passing mark is a lot lower. It's 40%. In Geneva, it's 60%. So it's much, much higher.
Oh
I
wow.
think so. You just need to study a little more. At the same time, the exams are made easier because some of the exams are oral exams. So it's more to do with sort of just talking and showing that you know the subject. And also, a lot of them are multiple choice rather than essays. So that's, I think, the biggest difference with Exeter. I know doing economics and politics, I had a lot of essays, but this year I didn't even write one because it was mainly multiple choice. But I think with the way they do it in Geneva, it's quite easy to pass at the end of the day, but it's really, really hard to get like a high 2-1 if I translate the the grades. So it's, I guess most people get passing marks rather than high marks,
I
which is
see.
different from Exeter, I believe.
Okay, okay. I see, I see. And what about the number of hours? Do you have more classes in Switzerland, or is it a lot of like kind of personal work, a
No,
bit like an extra?
the amount of hours is pretty much the same with Exeter. You always have like one lecture a week, and that lecture is around an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then that's it for the week, and then you just have personal work. So it's basically, it's very similar.
Okay, very nice, very nice. And you mentioned that you speak French, obviously. So when you arrived in Geneva,
Yes,
I imagine that, I mean, you're not maybe native French, but I mean, you have a really good level. Uh, have you?
thank
A
you.
lot of people, when they arrive in a new country, they can have maybe some language barrier problems.
Hmm.
Was it a problem for you, or did you manage to communicate with people in Geneva pretty easily?
um, Geneva is super international. Even when they saw that I may have some difficulty in some French because of like bureaucracy works or whatever I needed to do, they um, they spoke English with no issue whatsoever. So it was really easy. All of them speak English, most of them speak English. So they just make it a lot easier for anyone who doesn't speak French. They don't assume anyone speaks French anyway. So they know that they need to be able to speak both languages. So that was extremely easy.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'm glad. And arriving in Geneva, did you experience any maybe cultural shock? Like maybe you were expecting some stuff and you didn't see them, or maybe you were positively surprised
Um,
about something?
I think Switzerland is very hard to have a sort of cultural shock in the sense that they're not as culturally proud as Italians or English people. So I think the shock was less, but it was definitely the way that Switzerland works so well, that the transport works so well, and it's a really, really clean city. Coming from the chaos of Rome or London, that was definitely a difference for me. But the way that people are super kind, I guess, if we can call that culture. But other than that, it wasn't a super different. Um, it wasn't such a big culture shock per se.
Okay, okay, very nice. And so we talked about academic. We talked about the cultural maybe differences that you can find when you arrive on your year abroad in the city.
Yeah.
Is there? You mentioned the UN headquarters, so that was my next question. I imagine this must be like the thing to see in Geneva, right?
There's a lot of things to see because you don't only have the UN headquarters, you have the WTO, you have the Red Cross, you have so many international organizations. I don't have time. I didn't have time to see all of them, but there are so many. And I think what I did most of all was that I saw less of Geneva city, but more of Switzerland and its nature. Switzerland has a beautiful, beautiful nature with the mountains, especially in the winter, and the amount of lakes, they're stunning. So I think Switzerland is less of a city sort of experience and a more of nature experience with like hikes, for example. Um, but definitely in Geneva, the UN is one of the top things to visit, definitely.
Very nice, very nice. And since Geneva is, not far from the French border and the Alps, I
Yeah.
imagine hiking must be a big thing as well, right?
Yeah, I actually went on a hike yesterday.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, a lot of people hike. There's a lot of routes, and also France, as you said, is so close that a lot of people also hike in France. So it's just connected so well, and there's so many mountains that you're not going to be able to hike all of them. There's just so many hikes that they offer. So
I
it's just
imagine.
yeah, and they're amazing.
Nice. When oh, sorry, that was a microphone problem. I heard, we heard that in Madrid, for example, they have these like Erasmus kind of gathering that
Yeah.
manage, to help all people coming from all over the world in Madrid to meet between each other very easily. And what about Geneva? Do they have these kind of same stuff where you can meet up? Because you mentioned the Erasmus Society, so I imagine that must
Yeah,
be
yeah,
the
yeah.
best way for you to meet other people, I guess.
Yeah, it's an incredible society. It's it's full of they do welcome sessions and they do activities to meet other people, and you meet so many people from all over the world. It's amazing. And a lot after a while you can sign up to the ESN card, which gives you discounts on Ryanair flights as well, which is a plus. But
That's a good
it's
advantage.
amazing, and I did a lot of I did a lot of trips with them. I went to Zurich with them. I went to Ticino, which is the Italian canton, with them. I went basically all over Switzerland with them, and they do amazing deals because they get a lot of discounts all over Switzerland. So if you really want to see Switzerland, or if you're coming to Geneva, I think it's one of the things that people should really go for, because you get to meet some friends that you may have for life, and then you are able to travel all over the place, and it's just really nice.
Very nice, very nice. I like that. And what about maybe some challenges that you faced during your year abroad in Geneva? Was there anything in particular that you think it's something that, can happen to a lot of people? And if it happened, did you manage to overcome through it?
I think the main challenge for me was probably at the beginning finding like a group of friends to stick with, or finding activities to do. But the as I said, the ESN Society really helped me with that. I always went on trips and found so many friends, and with the bureaucracy, which could be daunting for some people, because personally I never had to deal with any bureaucratic issues. But the exchange coordinator is really helpful. It He sent step-by-step instructions to just make it that much easier. So it was just really nice.
Very nice, very nice. I like that. I mean, it's good that you managed to get some help, and thank God you managed to overcame
Yeah,
these challenges. You
of
mentioned
course.
you mentioned these the UN headquarters again at the beginning, because you said it's related to what you maybe aspire to do in the future.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that you were in Geneva for year abroad definitely like helped you even more to go into this career furthermore in the future, or are you going to come back, do you think? Like, did it help you even more for your career, or maybe not really, you didn't really think about it?
I think I think it did. It I was I personally didn't need to search for any, but I know so many people that managed to get some internships, some voluntary work at the UN or in embassies that worked close with the UN or NGOs. It was a great opportunity. I know there's a lot of opportunities out there, and it definitely gave them a lot of networking, which is always good to have. I know, I mean, it's hard getting any internship. I personally know very well as well. But the fact of having the UN and so many organizations so close by really does make it that much easier because if you can't find one in the UN, you can probably find one in the WTO or the Red Cross, or there's just so so many options that the amount of opportunities you have is really immense.
Okay, nice, nice. And what about the cost of living in Switzerland? Because we know that it might be a bit of a cliche,
It's
of
quite
course,
high.
but yeah, that's why Switzerland is kind of known sometimes to be quite expensive. Yourself, as a student coming from both England and Italy, how did you
Hmm.
manage to face that? I guess a challenge.
Um, well, the Université de Genève actually made it so much easy because they give you a scholarship. So you don't even have to ask for anything, but based on the university that you come from, they give you a certain amount of scholarship that covers you for 6 months, and then another one that covers you for the other 6 months, depending on how long you're staying. So, for example, for me, for the whole year, they gave me 3,800 coming from the University of Exeter, and it's not based on any financial household income at all. It's just based on the fact that you come from a UK university, and the fact of having these 3,800 plus student finance from the UK, it really does give you that extra boost because they know it costs more. They know it's definitely, you know, quite high to deal with. So they help you. They just gave me, I was very surprised when they just gave me like a random scholarship that I didn't even apply for, and they just gave them to me. So it's definitely extremely easy to get by, and I think I managed to cover everything with that scholarship and my UK student finance. So I don't think people should get too worried.
Okay, okay. Well, that's good to know then to see that the university helps you quite a
Yeah,
lot with it.
definitely.
And what about the accommodation? Because we know obviously in Exeter it's a big thing every year finding accommodation, how expensive it is, and did you manage
Hmm.
to find yours pretty easily before getting to Geneva?
I was accepted to Geneva, I actually, the same exchange coordinator, he sent a few links during the summer that you could apply for. They basically work in the same way as the depot or central living or Primworks would work. They're just big buildings, and then you apply for a room. Usually the rooms are quite expensive, but compared to Geneva prices, if you were to go privately, they're actually very cheap. So it's a sort of win-win situation. Um, I know there's a lot of these sort of buildings and some of them are like 5 minutes from the uni. You just need to apply online. Of course, same thing as Exeter. It's first come, first serve. So just as soon as you know that you get in the uni, just be as quick as you can to try and apply to these places. Um, and if anyone needs any help, I'm always here. If they want to contact me, I have no issue. But with accommodation, there's a lot of accommodation available. Maybe it's not the best accommodation, but it's better to have a roof than nothing. So
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. We don't really
yeah,
want to go on our year abroad and and sleep in the
yeah,
street.
yeah,
But
yeah.
okay, well that's good. I'm glad to see that the accommodation were pretty I would say easy, and they had a nice way
Yeah.
of functioning, exactly like in Exeter, as
Hmm.
you said, with the depot and other private
Yeah,
accommodation.
exactly.
My last question was how. Which kind of advice would you give? If you had to meet right now someone that say, "Oh, I'm going to Geneva next year," what would be the main primary advice that you would give to that person?
Um, oh, I think definitely bring hiking gear, sports gear, because I didn't have any, and hiking with running shoes is not the most comfortable thing ever. And I think, I don't know, bring just bring comfortable things because you're gonna walk a lot, you're gonna travel a lot around Switzerland, you're gonna hike a lot, so just be aware.
Beautiful. Okay, well, I'm
But
glad to
yeah,
see that you had a wonderful year in Geneva. As as I can hear, I think you're still there, right?
yes, I
And
am.
when are you? When is like the end of the year in Geneva?
Well, exams just finished, so I think that I'm staying here for a few days until my rent goes out, just to, use my money as much as I can.
Yeah, you're right. Get the
But
most of it. Get the most of it. It's true. It's a one life
yeah,
experience.
exactly. Get the most of it. But yeah, it finishes at the end of June. So
Okay.
it's nearly done, which is sort of sad.
I know, but well, that's the thing. This is something we can talk about later on in the future, but how to kind of cope in a way with the coming back in England, and
Yeah.
if you kind of reaction with people if they manage to keep contact with the people that they were with during the year abroad. So yeah, thank you so much, Maria Claudia, for coming today. It was a pleasure to listen to about all your experience
Thank
in
you for
Geneva about your year
inviting me.
abroad. Pleasure, pleasure. And yeah,
Thank
I
you.
should all see you very soon.